The Advanced Micro Devices down 30% from its recent highs. Joining us now is Bernstein, Stacy Rasgon, who upgraded the stock to outperform from market perform. It is the first outperform on the stock from Stacy in 10 years. It is your call of the day. I mean, Stacy, first off, congratulations for just being around for 10 years in this business.
Yeah,
I mean, on the sell
it's
side,
good to have longevity in this career.
10 months at this point is a long time, so congrats. Why now? Why the first outperform in a decade?
Yeah, no, you bet. And frankly, what triggered it, really, we've been looking at this for a while as it's been coming in. What really triggered it was Intel's comments last week at their analyst day, specifically around data center. And they basically said that it's open season on data center for the next several years. Intel, for your watchers who may not be aware, they pushed out their server roadmap. They had a product called Granite Rapids that was supposed to be here in 23. They pushed it out to 24. They're backfilling it with another product which is not as good. They're basically telling you that their own server roadmap for the next several years is deficient. And they acknowledge that they are going to be losing share for at least through 2023. So it was those statements and sort of like a frank acknowledgement from Intel on the competitive situation that their data center business finds itself in. That was kind of what finally tipped me over the edge, and that's why we put this out today.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of good.
Go ahead.
But there's a lot of other good stuff that has happened with the stock. As you mentioned, it is down 30% off the peak in November. It's down 20% year to date. It's all multiple, by the way. The price to forward earnings multiple is down 50% off of that November peak. The earnings are actually up 30% since then, the forward earnings. The stock today is about under 30 times next 12-month price to forward earnings. It's 20 times or even less a likely $5 plus in earnings power that I think they get in relatively short order. I don't think that $5 is a peak either. Their share is increasing. Their mix is still improving.
Yeah.
And then even if you're Xilinx, like they just closed that deal, most of the street has this deal dilutive. They suggested it's actually accretive in the first year, which suggests that they must have a much more positive impression of the Xilinx revenue trajectory than I think is currently shared on the street. So you put all that together with Intel's comments, I mean, it seemed like a good time.
Joe, I know you own it. You got a question for Stacy.
I do. Stacy, first of all, thank you for finally coming around. I appreciate the humility on that. But are we basically in an environment right now where it's about Taiwan Semi, NVIDIA, and AMD, and all the rest, including Intel, are the unfortunate beneficiaries of just an incredibly wide gap as it relates to market share and ability to grow earnings?
Well, talk about a gap. I mean, it's sort of funny. I think AMD's actual limitation right now is capacity. And I suspect the more capacity they can get at TSM, the more share they will be taking. That is their limiting factor right now. So I'm really happy to see TSMC spending as much money as they are. I think the more they're spending and the more capacity that's available for AMD, I think is better. By the way, I think this also explains some of what Intel's doing. Intel is obviously using capacity as a strategic weapon. And this is, to Intel's credit, they've got a lot of issues. This is one of the things that I think they recognize, and it is a strength of theirs. They've got a lot of money to deploy, and they're going to be putting a lot of fabs in the ground. For Intel, we'll see if they can fill them. But they are definitely using that as a weapon. I think we're all seeing how important having access to really solid amounts of leading-edge capacity really is. And so I'm glad to see TSMC at least putting it.
And Stacy, I was out at a conference last week in Houston, had a chance to interview the CEO of ON Semi, Hussein, and he was a little more sanguine. He wasn't saying supply chains are going to get fixed in 2 months. He saw it more maybe a 6 month to 1 year. I understand that all these companies, we like to lump them in, right? They're in on ETF, the SOX. They all do different things. They all have different end markets. They've all got different supply chains. Do you like an ON? Are there other names that are in markets that we don't talk about as much as an AMD that are on your radar?
You know, there's a bigger debate right now on this kind of peak cycle versus stronger for longer. And while things are still very tight, I'm a little more in the peak cycle camp broadly. I think that there is evidence of things like overshipment and stockpiling in a number of these end markets. I'm actually worried, like auto and industrial, which are sort of the shining stars right now. Those are the markets that I'm a little more worried right now. Data center and some other things where, again, guys like NVIDIA or AMD are playing, I'm a little less worried right now.
Stacy, pleasure. Thank you very much. First upgrade in a decade. Wow.